Hello, everyone, and welcome on the radio side and the video side to Onyx Network's presentation of Paranormal Experienced with seasoned investigator Kat Hobson. Here's where you're going to find everything you need to know: UFOs, ghosts, Bigfoot, and everything unexplained in the paranormal with Kat Hobson on Paranormal Experienced. Here's your host, Kat Hobson.
Hello there. Welcome to Paranormal Experienced with Kat Hobson. I'm so glad that you're here tonight. I have somebody joining me tonight that I think you're going to enjoy so much. I love when I meet people who have multiple and varied interests, and tonight's guest is that person. I too am fairly strange and unusual. I don't know if she's as strange as I am, but she does have unusual interests. She is an experiencer in ufology. She is one of the most gifted people I know. I know a lot of gifted people. Okay, I'm not just going to bring you anybody. And I am so excited because she's also a gifted artist. And my guest is Lala Bright. Lala, welcome. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. That was so sweet. Thank you for saying all that.
Well, I met you first at the SCU conference in Huntsville. And I didn't know you. And I didn't know Bob. That's when I first met him too. And I loved it because I love that type of conference anyway.
Yeah.
I love the science. I love all the things that go with the woo and the science, really.
Yes.
It's just kind of, it is. And I did not know when we met that you were an experiencer. I really had not gotten that much information about y'all because everybody wanted to talk to you. Mm-hmm. And I was so glad that to have the opportunity now, and over time, following you on Facebook and getting to know your work a little bit and stuff. I think that you're one of the most gifted artists that I know.
Thank you.
I was telling one of my friends, I said, I don't care if there are rocket scientists everywhere. I'm getting my face painted the next time we're together. Because
absolutely. Yes.
I think I'd make a great cat, right?
What? I bring my face paints with me every conference I go to, just in case somebody wants it. And I think I painted Deb Cobble before and all kinds of people. It was interesting.
Well, then I would be in great company. So, it's really fun because people that know me as a paranormal investigator, well, the ghost side of that, are always surprised by my interest in ufology. Mm-hmm. And it's something that once that bug bites you, it's really tough to get away from. I have had missing time moments in my life, and never really until I started researching ufology, which I got turned on to the science of it through my friend Chase Klotsky many years ago, and how to investigate it. Mm-hmm. That's the first time I realized that probably I had experiences relevant to that. I've never had a regression. I don't know that I would want one, but it's something that a lot of people have gone through. Right. And when you did you first start having interaction experiences as a child? Were they when you were older?
What started when I was... Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, at what point, I guess maybe like a maturity level as well as an age level, because it seems like children deal with this better.
Mm-hmm.
What's your take on that?
I think kids are they're not bogged down by, it's fake, it's not real, you're weird. They're just accepting of everything, face value. And I know I have had experiences with spirits and aliens and crafts since I was like 5, maybe a little. I remember 5. Maybe it might have been a little younger. I would always have dreams of me in my backyard at night, and I'd look up and there would be a bunch of UFOs flying slowly over me. And I had this dream for years, many times throughout that year. It would be like 20 times a year. And a couple
wow,
years.
that's tremendous.
Right. And I never talked about it because I didn't know what they were until a few years later. My dad watched an alien movie and I saw UFO and I go, I know what that is. I dream of it all the time. And so my dad was an experiencer too, but it scared him. He didn't really talk about it that much. I know we had an experience together, but he was more into the paranormal. Yeah. As an adult.
In a minute. That's interesting.
It was very interesting. Yeah. But I don't know if I ignored it. I was into the paranormal ghost stuff for most of my life, from teen to, I'm 42 now. But whenever I had an alien experience, I felt like I was on, I call it alien Xanax. I was numbed down. I didn't talk about it. I didn't look it up. So until recently, I've been researching more.
Right. That alien Xanax, that's a really good description because it's, well, it is. It's almost like we're numbed so that we don't cause problems. We don't yell. We don't get stressed. We're not freaking out on them. And I think we all remember Travis's description of when his Xanax wore off, right? Mm-hmm. He was quite active in trying to eliminate the people around him. Right. But, I don't know if it's, obviously in that case, I feel like they wish that they had not let that happen because it was frightening to him and he reacted as such. But I think that if they would just interact with people more than what I've experienced, because mine are all just missing time. They wouldn't, as far as I know, I didn't have interaction. And I feel like if they would interact and help with that somewhat, that people would not be nearly as terrified of the concept. Right. I had a girlfriend, I was on her show. Last night, Tuesday night, and we were talking about one of her experiences. And she's had several. Every time she was taken, she was put over, brought back like a few miles down the road, sometimes way down the road. Wow. And her children were in the car with her. And that's not a good way to go about instilling trust, right? Right. So I just feel like this would not have been taboo for as long if they brought more communication, if they helped us to understand what they were doing with us. Right. You are so sensitive. You understand emotion. I read energy. Do you feel like this is something that it seems like they avoid conflict as a rule? Right? They don't want somebody that's going to be wigging out on them. According to Travis, he was literally trying to kill the ones that were there when he woke up. He was so afraid and whoa. Do you feel like this is something where there's going to wind up being more interaction so that people are not as afraid of them and they will be able to, if they just show up on the White House lawn and they're lasering everybody, that's going to be one thing. But I don't feel like that's the gist of where they want to go with this. Right. Yeah. That would be bad. I feel like they want it's going to be one of two things, right? It's either going to be an invasion,
Mhm.
and they're going to take people that are malleable or that they can control, and everybody else will be gone, or
Mhm.
that they're interested in, maybe people they already have relationships with,
Right.
or they're going to be coming to help educate and raise awareness, and yeah, or they're going to come and take our wells like in Star Trek, right? So I just to save them from us because we're idiots.
Yeah,
But
we are.
you know, what is your feel when you've been involved with them? What did you get as far as what their goals were?
I believe there are different types with different agendas. I've interacted with a couple different one. I had one not great experience. And the ones here at our home outside, they're kind. They do want to communicate. They're very gentle, very slow. I guess I must be kind of dense. At least they literally helped me. We have it on video. An orb shot down in the backyard at night. It turned into a foggy light that looked like a head and shoulders. It moved our heavy camera to where it wanted us to look. Went into an orb and shot back out. So they're like, we need to help this girl, you know. So
Let's
there's
let her
some
see
nice
us,
ones.
right?
Yeah.
Find us. We're here. We're here. We're here. Look.
And
That is so funny though that they did that.
they did, and they started shortly after to light up that neighbor's roof in their tree, and we'd and have crafts over top of it. So we weren't looking the right.
What kind of
Um,
craft are they? Are they
it
in? I know we're jumping around a little bit, but
I have ADD, so it works. That's fine.
oh, good. It works with mine. We do play well together with that.
The craft was, there's been a lot of different shaped ones, but the one I'm talking about in particular, it looked small to me. It looked like this with a tail,
Right.
and it went like this to this really quick, and then something got sucked out of the house that looked like a body bag, and it all disappeared, and the
Your
light
neighbor's
crawled
house?
away. Yeah, behind us. They do it all the time.
Get out.
We video it. It's on
And
Facebook.
they showed you where to look for that.
Yes. So
Have you told your neighbor?
no, I'm scared too.
How
He's really
how would you
grumpy.
broach that? I mean, that would be so awkward.
HOA would not like us too much, I don't think.
They
So,
would probably drum you out.
yeah, probably. I
They have
think
no sense of humor.
when we
So,
leave, I think I would like to leave a note, maybe.
maybe a video.
Right. He's got to know something's up. He just, I would assume, well, maybe he doesn't. A lot of us don't, honestly, do we?
That's true. No.
So,
And if you don't talk to other experiencers, then you don't know, because that's when my radar started going off at a conference where I was allowed to sit in on an experiencer group
Mhm.
by the person leading it. And I was just kind of like, I'm getting very nervous just sitting here,
Right.
and I wasn't really big on that.
Right.
And afterwards, I spoke with the person who was leading it, who is a friend. And I was like, I was very nervous. I was very uptight. I got to where I couldn't sit still
Mm-hmm.
because apparently it was hitting home,
Mm-hmm.
even subconsciously. So people probably thought I was crazy with my twitching. That's okay.
I don't think so. I think I'm hard on myself too, but we're all, and I mean this in a loving way, but we're all the weirdos
We are.
coming together. So none of
Well,
us are weird anymore. You know what I mean?
yeah. Well, maybe not any weirder than the others.
Right. Yeah.
So, because when I first started studying UFOs, I was working from the science side.
Right.
I didn't know anything about physics. I didn't know anything about most of this stuff. And I got the nerve up to send an interview request to Stanton Friedman, and he came a couple
Wow.
of times. And he knew I was so interested, but didn't really know anything. And he just kind of um, mentored me a little bit,
Mm.
over a few years until he died. And it was one of those things that I'm so glad that he gave me a little bit of a foundation to look at it from the science side, because if you look at it strictly from an experiencer side, it's very bizarre and can be very frightening.
Mhm.
So if you're trying to understand the how it's happening as well as the why me side of it, yeah,
Right.
you can't live in why me
Right.
forever, because you have to learn to either interact or just say, look, I'm not dealing with this well. Could you please stop?
Right.
And I don't even know if that works. What do you think?
I know some of them do listen. I got they started coming around a lot in this house, and I got scared,
Really?
and
I'm
they
sorry.
felt it. It's okay. It's okay now because I was amazed that they felt my fear and they went away for a few days. And finally, I said, "Okay, I'm ready. You can come back." They did that night. It was amazing. I had no idea I know that sounds stupid. I just didn't know that they could listen in on your feelings and your thoughts. It's amazing.
They communicate with you telepathically, though, don't they?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
I know I went through a lot of grief. You know, I lost my family a couple of years ago and my
I'm
son's
sorry.
father. Thank you. And I didn't have anybody to talk to, and I was very sad. And so I would look up at the night sky and I'd say, "Could you help me deal with this?" And they would fly around. They'd look like little stars flying around.
Yeah.
It preoccupied me. It saved me, really. It did.
Well, it probably helped the feeling that you were adrift in the universe too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
That's a bad feeling.
Yeah, it is.
I mean, I have David, and I lost my last parent. Well, I lost my parents within a couple of years of each other.
I'm sorry.
And when my mom died, I was just kind of like adrift. I understand. And I sit outside all the time
Mm-hmm.
and I watch because I like the stars. I love meteor showers. I'm always out. And they like meteor showers too. They're
Mm-hmm.
always out. And it's very interesting
Oh,
because I didn't know that until I started really getting into the you know take the blanket, get in the hammock, take a couple of blankets if it's the right showers, and you're not by yourself. And I had, in fact, I told the guys at SCU that I get them here for most meteor showers. Pretty much always the Geminids, but it's just fun.
mm-hmm.
So I didn't know that. I think that's kind of weird, but and they always get in the same spot. They go to Orion's belt. They come
Really?
over, yeah, they go over because Orion comes over the mountain behind my house. I'm doing like YMCA. No, this is this is a mountain, okay? And they come over the mountain and they come in twos and they get on the belt and they sit there and they just watch the meteor showers. So,
That's so cool.
well, I think it must be pretty cool to watch them from above them,
Right.
right? As opposed to watching them from, my side. I don't, maybe they play like, Space Invaders, they were dodging or something. I don't know. But I think that would be fun, right?
I
So,
I want to know if they do have a sense of humor and laugh and things like that. I'm interested to know if they're similar to us. Maybe I don't know. I know they care.
I think I think that they care sometimes, and I think sometimes they care as pets.
Mm,
Sometimes, you
yeah.
know, as entertainment value, like we have dogs that we love and stroke, and cats that you know, deign to let us feed them kind of thing, you know. But it's hello Jeff and Chad and Maria. So I'm really very interested in your experience with your dad.
Okay.
Can you share that?
Sure. So my parents retired to Florida and I would visit them. And I was helping my dad take the trash out one night. And I got this funny feeling and I looked up. We were out front. I looked up at the neighbor's house and all of a sudden they're probably this big orange balls glowing. And they appeared one at a time. There were 5 of them and it went into a shape of a V. And I go, Dad, do you see this? Because we were best friends and he was into
Right.
all this stuff. And he looked right at him and he robotically said no. He turned around and went into the house and didn't come back out. And that was not like him at all. He would have never done that. So I
Right.
think they did something to him to make him go back in. And I looked back up at them and one by one, they disappeared. And I never saw them again like that. I never saw
Right.
the orange orbs. And my dad and I never spoke about it. That's what was weird too. I didn't even feel the need
That
to go.
is weird.
Yeah. It I'm alien Xanax, I swear. It really was. I don't know. But I don't remember the rest of the night either. I don't remember going in the house, finishing the trash, nothing. So
That is definitely pretty telling.
yeah. But that's happened a couple of times. I know the neatest experience I had besides that was I was getting Dunkin' coffee with my friend, and we were parked, and we saw little red fireballs flying over us, and we got nervous, and we go, well, we don't want to die tonight, so let's just go home, right? So we got back on the little road, and all of a sudden we saw this big, really big cloud, and a helicopter flew and put its spotlight on the cloud. And I saw this huge craft. I mean, I only saw a part of it. It was huge. And
Right.
it was black metal, and it looked like these weird pipes were intertwined with each other. And I remember I drove under it, and it was so close to us, I didn't see the sky anymore. I just saw the craft. That's how
Holy
close.
wow.
And I don't remember taking her home. I don't remember anything. But that I remember the detail of this thing. The pipes were so wide, it was as wide as the helicopter's body. That's how big this was. So I don't know what the little pipes were. I don't know what the pipes were for exactly. I do want to know that, but I can't find anything. Nobody knows about that. So
Have you never heard anyone else describe a craft like that?
no.
That's fascinating.
Yeah. And what's strange is that one, it didn't run when the helicopter put the spotlight on it.
Right.
And two, they must be something that the government doesn't know about because they came to check it out. So that was odd. Usually they run.
Well, just because I feel like they don't want to provoke conflict.
Right. Yeah.
What color was that cloud?
It was like a murky, you know how fog looks? It's not exactly
I
pure white.
do.
That's what it looked like. It's
I
thick.
had one in a cloud here, and it was in my backyard. I was outside during the day in a hammock. I'm kind of a hammock layer, so I love it. It's just my relaxation in the midst of doing things. But
Mhm.
I happened to be there because my daughter had called, and I was on the phone with her, and I saw this big. It was a greenish beige cloud. It
Mhm.
wasn't a white cloud. It wasn't a storm cloud. It was just a weird cloud, and it was big. And I have a gazebo in my backyard with the Japanese maple behind it. And it came, and it had been high, and it
Mhm.
came and it was like over my gazebo in my backyard. And it was actually taller than that. But it came out of, it looked like the typical upside down pie plate, right?
Mhm.
And it came out of the cloud. And I'm like, oh my God. I'm on the phone with Allie. I'm like, do not hang up.
Mhm.
Do not hang up the phone, because I do not want a mistime episode without someone knowing that, because this is
Right.
broad daylight. I live right outside of Metro Birmingham. My address is Birmingham. And I'm sitting there going, oh, not today. I'm on the phone. It's my kid. And so it came out, and I'm like, I'm going to see the aliens, right? Well, it didn't have windows. It
Okay.
it had places for windows, but it had like metal looking over them. I swear to
Okay.
God, it looked just like an upside down pie tin with a bottom part too.
I believe it. There's a whole bunch of different types. Yeah.
I do too. But, you know, it pulled out, and I'm like, no, do not hang up. Do not. And she's like, I'm not. So it stood out there for a minute, like, you see me, right? And it pulled back into the cloud, and it just kind of meandered on, and then it all dissipated.
Yeah.
And I'm
Yeah.
like, this is probably the strangest thing ever.
Right.
But I do know that, because I'm on the phone, I'm like, you're still there, right? You're still there, right?
Mhm.
And she's like, yeah, I'm here. I'm here.
No.
I hear you, because I'm describing it as I'm saying it. It was probably the strangest experience relevant to that I've had, because it really felt like it was about to get up close and personal.
Right.
And maybe it was a tour bus.
I
Oh,
was
look,
just
there's a human. you know, Pay no attention to the human, but check out that hammock, right?
It's like a new
So,
driver. They're, how they have bumper stickers for rookie driver? Maybe it was one of them.
right?
Could you imagine?
Test
Oh my
drive.
god!
So it's just too
Yeah.
funny.
I didn't know that they could make clouds as camouflage. I didn't know that they could become orbs. I mean, I remember I used to live by a military base in Baltimore, and I'm driving down the road, and all of a sudden, again, there's a helicopter, and it's really, really low to the street. It shouldn't have been that low. And I
Right.
look, and because it keeps hovering back and forth, and I look and I see a bunch of these white orbs appear and then disappear, and then appear and disappear. And so, of course, I had to follow them around, because why not? Um,
Might as well.
Dude, it was crazy. I followed them for an hour, and they got so low it pushed my car a little bit off the road. That's because of the wind or whatever it's called.
Right.
It was amazing. And I mean, I shouldn't have done it, and I remember I saw the helicopter door was open. I don't know if they do close, but it was open. A man was standing there, and they had this huge metal thing that I guess was bolted to the floor of the helicopter. It looked like a big cannon they were pointing at these orbs. It was really weird. Um, then I got nervous after I saw that, and I went home, but I know my phone acted a little weird after that. So
Kind of weird.
it just the camera light came on a lot. It would flicker. It would turn to things I wasn't looking at. It just acted like it was hacked. But then it stopped
Right.
after a day. So that made me nervous too. But
Well, in that circumstance, it's hard to know
right.
which group it was hacking you, right? I mean,
Right.
was it oops, sorry. Was it the helicopters? Was it the craft?
Right.
That would be a moment of, oh my goodness. Because I think that the people who are experiencers are brought to the attention. I think a lot of people know in the military and pseudo military type of organizations who are likely to be interacting or are interacting. You know, I I just think it's interesting to me that there's sometimes profiles that match so closely.
Mhm.
And I also think it's interesting that all of a sudden this is mainstream
Right. Yeah.
because that happened almost overnight,
Yeah. And,
literally.
there's always a reason that they're doing there. I don't know what the reason is exactly, but they wouldn't tell us if they don't have to tell us. You know what I mean?
Right?
So something's up, and I don't like it.
Well, if they have to tell us, then that means somebody else is going to if they don't.
Right.
Or it may mean that, um, first contact is imminent,
Yeah.
or, you know, um, the White House lawn is imminent. But, they've flown around the Capitol.
Yep.
I mean, it's not like they hide.
Right.
And we scrambled on that. It was a very public event. And people act like, oh, well, there's no such thing as UFOs.
Right.
Well, we scrambled on them. You had the Battle of Los Angeles. There's so many different interactions to me that I'm going to introduce a different side of this. You okay?
Okay.
As a person with your skill sets, you read people extraordinarily well, right?
Yeah.
You read energy as well as other things, right? You can delve into, right? And I mean, not saying that you're intrusive, but it is what your skill set is. You're
Yeah.
very aware of people and their experiences and things like that. But you were in a room that I was in when people were talking about things that broke last year before they broke. And did you ever get a feel that any of that was not true?
That what they were saying was not true. I feel that most of them were being honest. I do. Did you not think they were being honest?
No, I thought that they were.
Yeah.
But, then I'm at Contact in the Desert when all of this news breaks out, and you've got Rush back out on the thing saying, yes, we have craft.
Right.
And yeah, that was the first thing. And then I remember watching, because I got home, got situated, I was watching a hearing where Nancy Mace says, do we have biologics? And he's like, we do.
Right. Yeah.
And she said, are they human biologics? And he said, they are not human biologics. And nobody but me seemed to be as excited by that, right?
Right. I don't get it. They don't care.
I don't either. And, this was right after Jacques Vallée and Paola had written and released Trinity, right? Where they're talking about the first crash where we had biologics. And I actually interviewed Jacques about that book and some other stuff. And it was so interesting because when I was reading it, I had no idea that had happened. Okay. And this was pre-Roswell. For people that don't know about it, go get the book. It's Trinity. And it's by Jacques Vallée. And he wrote it with Paola, whose name I cannot remember the last name. I'll have to Google that for you guys. But it was brilliant. And it's when I found out about a young man that had been, writing to me online a lot about his experiences. Well, his grandfather, I believe it was one of the boys on a horse who saw this happen and saw the alien that survived running around outside the craft, all freaked out and stuff. And he saw the military come to get it.
Mhm.
So it was on their farm. But I don't know why people don't understand that this is a real deal. You know, I'm sitting there tripping out because I come downstairs and Cheryl Costa, who was also at the conference, said, "What did you think of the news?" Well,
Mhm.
I was packing to leave. I didn't have, yeah, I had just seen something on my iPad, but I just kind of cleared it and went in because I didn't understand what was happening. And
Right.
that was the day that they had released all this information. And it was hitting hard everywhere. And I'm just like, I cannot be in the air all day. I'm on my way back from California to Birmingham,
Right.
and I don't have any way to, talk to people and get feedback. And, you know, Dylan and Nick and everybody else were doing their final workshops. So they weren't out there yet. And I'm just like, drat, 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 drat. But, you know, but people didn't seem to be as enthused as I would have expected them to be.
I think a lot of it is fear. You know, if you don't see it, it's not real kind of situation, even though we're seeing it. But I think a lot of it is people are gaslit into thinking that they're weird or strange if they do believe it. Um, I just think it's denial. I really do. But some of it, I don't know, maybe they conditioned a lot of us to not feel. It's very strange how zombie like people can be over such a
I
big thing.
know. Well, and it is such a big thing.
Right.
Well, I
Maybe
mean,
that's what they want.
you seeing your neighbor being removed from his home
Right.
is a big thing.
Right.
I mean, you know, you're watching an abduction happen and nobody's going to believe you. Even
Right.
with videos, somebody would think that,
I
you
know.
know, there was something up. It's
CGI
just,
or something.
yeah. CGI gets a lot more credit than it deserves.
I do know that. So Grant Cameron talked about my triangle bruise, and I've gotten other strange bruises that are almost have like a design to them. And I've noticed that before I get a bruise, the activity outside starts ramping up a lot. After my bruise, they chill out, go away for a little bit, maybe a couple weeks, a couple months, and then they it starts ramping up again. It started to ramp up now, so I know there's a bruise coming. So I do have an implant in my left leg. I think I've always had it. I noticed it 20 some years ago by accident. I found out.
Right.
So I think they monitor me. I think a lot of people that are abducted do have implants in them. They just don't know. So,
Well, I think that they have um, standard types and areas that they use because, like, Terry Lovelace has almost a triangle pattern of 3 in one of his legs.
mhm.
And that was in a photograph. That same pattern was in a photograph of some of other abductees that I saw in that workshop I went to. So I was just going to ask you if you had just the one or if it was a design. Is it just the one?
The bruise or the implant?
The
Are you talking
implant.
the implant, it looks like a piece of rice. It's the size of a piece of rice. And it's in my left outer thigh area.
Okay.
So a lot of people have asked if I want to get it removed or anything. I wouldn't mind going somewhere to get it checked out or
Right.
tested or whatever. But I'm afraid I've heard that
It'll
people
run.
right. There's been people that have taken it out, it comes right back.
Right.
So
Well, there's some people that have gone to have them removed and the implant literally ran from the
yeah.
scalpel,
Yep.
which is kind of freaky.
Yeah, that was on a video. Was it Whitley Strieber, I think, in his
Whitley, I
ear?
think, had one in a workshop, but
Okay.
I know that another radio host and producer team were at an implant surgery, to
Uh,
remove an implant, and it it was running from the scalpel. It was avoiding being removed.
oh well, that's a
So
little
that
eerie.
was freaky.
But that makes me think what you said earlier. Are we their pets? Obviously, there's a chip that, and they track us and check up on us. I'd like them to pay my rent if that's the case. They could help out somewhere.
Or at least take care of my major credit cards.
Yeah, leave me some presents. I know you can beam things up. I mean, dang.
That's right. Beam them down. So I'm down with that. Just in case anybody's listening, I am down with that.
Yeah, please,
But
thank
but it does bear in mind how we chip our animals,
you. Mm-hmm.
or bring to mind how we chip our animals.
Yeah.
It's a whole different world out there, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. What we're taught is nothing like what we're taught at all.
No. And it's even about the physical science of things. You know, we see, and that's why I love like groups like the Scientific Coalition on UAP Studies,
Mm-hmm.
because these are rocket scientists. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
These are a bunch of guys and gals who all their lives have worked in propulsion, in astrophysics, and you name it. Rich Hoffman is one of my heroes. I just love that guy. And from every aspect, from him professionally, from his work with SCU, from his love of his wife and family, from his willingness to wear lederhosen, to all the trips that he does with all of his stuff. And I think that is probably my favorite person to learn from, because he doesn't mind helping me to comprehend something that's just a little beyond what I've learned.
Right.
But they're all like that.
Mm-hmm.
If you have a question, you're going to get an answer, if there
Right.
is one. And if there's not, somebody's working on it and they'll get you the answer when they finish working the formulations. But
Yeah.
it's like Bob. Your Bob. He is, Science Bob. That's how he introduced himself to me. I just love him. I love his energy. I think that he is one of the smartest people I've ever met. I've researched him and I've heard interviews with him. He is really somebody that I admire a lot too. And I love when you have people like this who are so much better educated in the things that can help explain how they're doing what they're doing, hopefully.
Right.
Yeah, and they don't mind sharing that or trying to help bring you along with them.
Yeah.
Like Stanton. Stanton knew I didn't know poop from Shinola about the things that he was trying to teach me.
Mm-hmm.
And yet he put it to where by the time we finished our different conversations, I had learned so much that I was better able to ask questions of other scientists because I
Right.
knew how to frame it.
Right.
He helped me be able to learn. And people like Bob do that too.
Oh yeah.
It's just like, well, yeah, let me hook you up with this knowledge.
It,
Don't be
he's very
afraid.
right. He's very excited to share what he learns. He
Yeah,
wants people, or they want people to understand where they're coming from and what they're learning.
I do.
Because we're not taught that. We're just taught, oh, there's a UFO and be
Right.
scared. That's it. So I think it's very interesting, and he does mansplain quite a bit, even though I love him dearly.
That's the scientist side.
Yeah, like the door hinge
But
goes this
it's
way.
really
I
cool
know, babe.
because when your plays over, they realize that and they kind of backstep a little bit, right?
Yeah.
And I'm married to a machinist who is one of the best mathematicians on the planet. Drives me crazy. I make him nuts. And yet we've known each other and loved each other pretty much since I was 19. So It's
Oh,
pretty cool. Well, we got divorced and then we remarried. So
that's
I
normal
think
now,
that yeah,
honestly.
he's a
Yeah.
great guy. And now he can't explain things to me because the frustration level kicks in. But
Yeah.
I think if you don't have to live with somebody, you can explain it a little better,
Yeah.
or you
I
can learn it a little better.
I try to understand. Sometimes I just go, uh-huh, that's yeah, I get it. I do. I don't know what he's talking about half the time, but it's really cool. I get it. So he'll show
Yeah,
me a picture. That's what he does.
pictures work.
Yeah.
Pictures work.
Oh, I'm like, well, at least, I'm not smart. I just talk to other beings. I mean, what do you want?
Talking to other beings counts
Yeah, I think so.
because they would like to be able to do that.
Oh,
I
yeah.
think some of them do it.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. I think so.
Yeah,
A lot of them are abductees, and I think a lot of them don't like to really share that for some reason. I don't know why.
because it's the woo side of it, not the science side. And they're very much focused on maintaining their intellectual credibility
Okay.
so that the work that they're doing will not get poo pooed.
Okay. Yeah, I
That's my
didn't think
take on
that.
it.
That makes sense. It
Yeah.
does.
Well, if you probably not so much within the last 5 years now, but prior to that, this was this was a deal, right? This was something that you could lose your if you were in an academic environment, you could lose your tenure
Hmm.
because you would be crazy.
Right. Yeah.
And these guys work so hard to achieve those levels. They would lose access to their labs. They
Right.
would lose access to the, computer programs they've written to help with the analytics and stuff. I
Mhm.
mean, I know that has to have some bearing on it. We could ask Bob, but I'm
Yeah.
sure that that would be something that they were taking into consideration prior to these most recent revelations.
Right.
You
Which
can't
is
be
sad.
woo woo and you can't be a woo woo and still maintain creds in a rocket science community, I don't think.
Right.
Although, if you look at it now, you have Travis Taylor, who's what, 4 PhDs, if I'm not mistaken,
Mhm.
and all this other stuff running around Skinwalker Ranch yelling shotgun as he gets in a truck and shooting off more rockets than God made in 3 years, and having a wonderful time doing his research. He's one of the smartest people in a room almost anywhere he goes.
Mhm.
He may be the smartest here and there. And he is, I mean, he is approaching all of these things that would have been so taboo not that long ago.
Right. Right.
And he, he was wasn't he the chief science officer, I think, with
Mhm.
ATIP. And the first time I saw him at an alien con, I asked if he was disinformation or disclosure. And he did not answer me. He got mad.
Oh.
So, and I wasn't trying to insult him.
Right.
I, when I saw him again in Huntsville, I was like, I'm sorry, you know, but you never answered me.
Right.
And then he got mad again. So I'm not his favorite person, even though we sound a lot alike, but it is what it is.
I
But
wonder.
I just think he is so fascinating because he was doing ATIP, he was doing the research on the government dime,
Right.
and he was working with Ancient Aliens at the time. He was working for Kevin Burns. Well, before I think Kevin had passed away before Travis got on the show. But anyway, he was working with them and on Ancient Aliens, and you know, getting a check from both sides.
Right.
And I was just kind of like, I'm curious because you really are the guy, right?
Mhm.
And now he's doing all the stuff at Skimwalker. And, you know, I find people like that fascinating because of all the input they get.
Mm-hmm.
And that's somebody who really does have the answers
Right.
to a lot of stuff that he probably can't say.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Yeah.
And I'm like, when does your non-disclosure end?
Right.
know?
Oh, I would
And
love to know.
I don't think his ever will. I think that he is lifelong. And I think he felt like I was accusing him of violating his oath to his country.
Oh, okay.
And I wasn't.
Right.
You know, I was just curious. And I'm sometimes a bull in a china shop when I have a question I want to answer to. But I think all of us are sometimes.
Yes. Yeah.
I don't think it's just me. But I do. I find that person's access in particular pretty cool. But I believe we have to go to a break. I'm having so much fun. And
I
now
love
I've been the
talking.
one talking instead of you talking. It's going to be your turn when
This
we come
is
back.
fun.
I'm
like
not
it.
talking anymore when we come back.
Oh, God.
That's not true. But we'll be back, guys. Y'all come back too.
Are we alone in the universe? The most important question facing humanity is on the verge of being settled once and for all. The Mutual UFO Network has been at the forefront of this journey for nearly 50 years. Our members worldwide are dedicated to the research, documentation, and awareness that will shape the future of humanity. Won't you join us?
Welcome back. You are listening to Paranormal Experienced. I am Kat Hobson, your host. I'm so glad that you are here. We have been so fortunate tonight because I have one of one of the coolest people. And Lala Bright is her name. She is a really gifted psychic. She is an experiencer. She is really a pretty cool person to talk to about ufology. She is somebody I like a lot. She's also a gifted painter, and she does it on faces. Her name is Lala Bright, and I'm so glad that she is here. Hey, Lala.
Thank you.
Thank you. You know, we went into a rabbit hole earlier, and I got off on a tangent. So, this show is about you.
I loved it. I do.
Well, I think that it's fun because I like conversation.
Yep.
And you're really a good conversationalist.
Thank you.
So, well, seriously, when we had struggles the other night, we talked for hours.
It was fun.
It was fun. I loved it. And it was good because of getting to know each other, I think, too.
Yeah.
So if you're going to present on anything that spoke to your heart, what would your topic be?
I would like people that have had experiences to not feel alone, not feel so weird. It can cause depression. It causes a lot of issues for people because they do keep it to themselves. Whether they have a supportive family or friends or not, I think a lot of us just kind of keep it to ourselves. So I'd like have maybe a support group for people. I know there are some out there. Les Velez, he does that.
Yes.
Right. But that's what was hard for me. I was really, really scared to bring it up. I know I was picked on a lot just because of my psychicness and ghosts, which are kind of normal people now. I still got picked on it. So yeah. I couldn't imagine speaking about like, oh yeah, I was abducted or I've seen crafts, So, but speaking about it now, it feels so good. It really does. It's like a weight has lifted off of me. And that's what I want other people to feel too. So I think that.
How would you help them to do that?
I think I would do it gently. So like when I talk about stuff about what's going on and the videos I get and the pictures I get, it's very gentle. It's not pushy. It's kind of like soft disclosure. So I would like maybe an online support group for people and just keep it friendly, not push a topic. They know why they're there. When they're ready to talk about it, they can. I know that I'm not good with pushy situations. I'm really shy. So I would do it really gentle, something like that.
I don't find you shy.
I'm super shy.
Well, we must have just clicked then because I find you very open and easy.
Thank you.
To chat with.
It's easy to talk to you. I love it. It's nice.
So, ditto. I was just curious because I think that you would be a very good person to lead a group like that. I know that Kathleen Marsden does that. There's a whole slew of people with MUFON who do that. They're very well trained with that.
Okay.
But I think it's always important that experiencers are who help experiencers.
Yes.
And you do that. Subtly sometimes, but you do that.
There, like the one time I did have a bad experience with Bob thinks it was a reptilian. I don't know. I couldn't see it, but I woke up to something doing something to me that I don't know how they did it. So it was either, I guess I'll call it an incubus so people know what I'm talking about, but reptilians usually do this. I found out later that it happens to a lot of women, actually. But
I've heard that.
Right. I was terrified to even bring it up with him. And I would like to help people that have been through that also, because it's scary, you know?
Well, it is scary. And then you have people with, missing pregnancies,
Mhm.
missing fetuses. And I know two women who have had babies from, one was from a relationship that she had with re- recurring visitation,
Mhm.
and the other just was pregnant and then wasn't.
Oh.
And one of them was very open about having been allowed visitation with her son.
Mhm.
They would bring him to her. And the other, I don't think anybody ever asked, but because I had talked to the first woman, I asked, have you seen your child? And I wasn't expecting to do that. And she got really quiet and still in the conversation. And she was like, I saw somebody across the street from my house that I believe was my daughter.
Wow.
So that was, and I don't know what led me to ask that question. She didn't get mad.
Mhm.
And I think that there's a lot of, because of the sexual interaction that a lot of people have,
Mhm.
and there is a lot of that. I think that there's more of that than people talk about.
Right. Yeah.
So there's no telling how many people have had, missing fetuses. And that's something that people don't talk about very much.
Right. It.
So,
I think even in this community, some people that have heard that experience I've had kind of gave me the look like, you know,
what?
which, yeah, I'm
I
like,
know that happens.
I know, but which made me be more quiet about it. But Bob was like, it happened to you. If you want to share the story, share it, because first of all, I don't think I was supposed to wake up. I think it was an accident that I woke up during what was happening, and I was frozen. It kept happening for maybe less than a minute, and then it stopped. But I was thinking to myself, am I going crazy? What is going on? And I had nobody to talk to for years about this, you know? So
That's the
now,
worst.
huh?
That would be the worst,
Yeah,
with no release of that.
right. Um, but also with the alien Xanax that I call it did numb me, but there was still that fear of, is this going to happen again? Are they
Right.
here and I can't see them still? What is it? And then I found out about reptilians, and I had no clue about them. I really didn't. So,
They're kind of a anomaly, I think, because it's really funny. I had a guest one time who reads auras and reads a lot of different things, and she was like, well, I do know that you are starseed and you're descended from reptilian royalty. And I'm like, do tell, right? And one of my girlfriends in chat said, oh my God, I can't believe this. I just found out that one of my best friends is a reptilian. And I'm like, do I look like a reptilian? Probably not. And, I didn't really know, but that was the reaction in chat room immediately during that show.
right.
And I was just like, I don't think all reptilians are bad.
They're not. They're
I
not.
mean, it's just like any other species. I mean, we've got some real schmucks running around amongst us, right?
Yeah.
So,
A little bit.
they don't all get put in jail.
Right.
So maybe we could put them on spacecraft and send them to other unsuspecting
Let's do it.
planets. Get them out of here.
But they're different types. They're like humans. Some are good, some are bad. But for some reason, there seems to be quite a bit of experiences like I had that correlate with a certain type of reptilian.
Yeah.
I don't know why, or
Well,
you know,
maybe they are just schmucks.
yeah.
I can be kind of schmucky every so often, but I try really hard not to. So everybody has their moments.
Yes.
So when that experience was concluded,
Hmm.
did you have you felt like that's happened to you again since then?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I wasn't awake. I would dream about it, but it would feel very, very, very real.
Yeah.
Which more real than it should have felt. And it was always
Yeah.
the scary. There's some being there that I don't want there, and is trying to intimidate me. So it hasn't happened a lot, but it's happened a few times.
Well, once was too many. I mean, without it being consensual.
Right? Yeah.
So
My can I just say something
yeah,
real quick?
you can say what you want.
What was the weird, it's still weird to me, is that my legs were closed and it was still happening. That's what I don't understand at all. But other people have experienced that too. Sorry if that's
Yeah.
too much. Anyway.
No, that's not too much. I mean, it's just another indicator of how bizarre that is, right?
Right.
Because we don't always remember that not every creature is going to be the same.
Right.
And I think that's part of what makes the concept of aliens so frightening, because they look different, they are different. You know, some may look like Godzilla and scare us to death. Some may look like, you know, Mr. Bean and be so much worse than Godzilla. I mean, we don't know enough, or it hasn't been shared with us enough to ascertain who and what characteristics are out there.
Right.
You know, we know what we hear when we go to conferences or
Right.
when we read, you know, tabloid press. I mean, because mainstream is not giving it to us. And
Right.
that's where the science is coming through,
Right.
is through people that are mainstream type people.
Mhm.
You know, Abby Loeb, for God's sakes, is at Harvard. You know, I mean, these are true scientists who have knowledge, and they've talked to people who have been, I'm sure they've had to talk to people who have been experiencers to get some idea of how these physics work. People who have been on craft,
Right.
people who have, you know, been one on one with that, people who were allowed to see what was happening on a craft.
Right.
You know, the logistics of how this moves isn't always going to be all you need.
Right.
So,
And remote viewers too, they've used.
yeah,
Mhm.
got to get an idea what's going on there. So,
I don't understand what is so horrible that they can't just be honest with what is it. Will they lose control over us? Is that what that is? I mean, I
It-
don't think they're protecting us.
it is a control issue, but it also is the fact that they've lied to us for
Yeah.
almost a century.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
20 years from now, it's going to be the 100th anniversary of Roswell,
Oh wow.
right? And sooner than that for Trinity. Trinity was pre-Roswell, and that was a crashed craft that was removed by the government,
Yeah.
and bodies, some were killed in the crash, some were not, and running around outside the craft. Those were removed by the government with the craft.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, there were eyewitnesses. There was a broken I mean, the whole reason that they knew a craft crashed of any type was because it took out the comm link that was up on a pole. You know, they had the old school telegraph, I guess, and they lost communication because that pole got clipped by the craft when it crashed.
Right.
That's the report, and that's what's in the book. And so They've lied to us for almost 100 years. They've hidden evidence that people really were having experiences for that long.
Right.
Okay. If I were the government and I knew that this knowledge was getting out there and I had to face the people that had been abducted, who had been harmed, who had had fetuses removed,
Mm-hmm.
and say, we're so sorry. We've known about this for almost 100 years now, but we figured it was okay to let these experiments take place because we're scared of these guys and we can't control them. But hey, we're going to get you some answers.
They'd have a
What do you
riot.
think you're hiding for, right?
Yeah.
There's not a good way to have that conversation.
Right.
There is no good way to have that conversation. And I would be afraid if I were the government too.
Well, you could just go about it like how moms do. Like, look, I know you're lying, but if you tell me the truth now, it's going to be okay.
But there's not everybody who's going to react like that.
I don't know. Yeah.
I know some experiencers who would go ape over that revelation. I mean, they're already angry.
Right.
I mean, they're already angry because things have happened to them and continuously happen to them. There's people that don't get left alone once it starts.
Yeah.
And I'd be furious.
Yeah.
If I knew that they, especially if there was an agreement like has been reported.
Right.
I wouldn't like that either.
Do you think that the government is actually run by some sort of alien being or something
God, I
non-human?
hope so. I'd hate to think humans would do this to each other.
Oh, God.
I mean, but if you think about it, I mean, we don't put the best and the brightest in positions of control. They're in the scientific community.
Right.
And I think that people that schmooze better than others running things are where you get the Arab-Israeli conflicts. I mean, there's nobody that's really willing to go and negotiate peace and talk with people. Yeah,
Right.
like Russia, Ukraine. I mean, I can't imagine that behavior would be tolerated anywhere but on Earth.
Right.
I think that if you had somebody that was going through and making that kind of rash behavior assault on other people, that if we weren't in charge, they'd be gone.
Right.
I can't imagine a air quote civilized society allowing those things to happen without just with impunity. Nobody does anything about it. Everybody excuses behaviors. And I think that that's how Hitler got to be so powerful and was able to do the things he did, because other people just didn't want to confront him.
Right.
And they just let him continue to build the dynamic machine that he had with his military and stuff.
Yeah.
So I don't think we're the brightest that are available out there.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I think that the only hope for us is that there is another group out there somewhere that's going, let's save the humans.
I think there is. I do. I think there is.
I think that's why activity is picking up.
Right.
Because they're concerned.
Yes.
And I do think, if you are a creationist or Christian or any religion, I think that something not here with us made all of this. Are we living in like the Truman Show?
You know what? Sometimes I wonder about that. I do.
I know, right? It just seems like we have leaders that just allow atrocities to happen. Yeah,
Right.
I agree, race, divine creation, but the divinity isn't what we see. We see the results of the divinity. And I think that divine creation is real.
Mm,
But where did I don't think that our creator is going to allow things to continue like this.
right.
And I think that's why we're actually seeing more activity and stuff around us. And I think that's probably why paranormal activity is kicking up too.
It is. Even
Haven't you felt that?
Oh yeah,
Oh yeah.
absolutely. My friend Lon Strickler, he does a lot of cases, and he was like, Lala, it's amping up so much, it's unusual. The cases he's getting, even
Yeah.
he is like something is going on. So, and
Well,
he's
I
been
would
doing
trust
it.
Lon on that. Yeah.
Oh yeah,
I mean, he's brilliant with what he does.
right.
He's a big cryptid guy too.
Yeah, and you know what people have been seeing a lot lately is what is it? It's not called a werewolf. It's well, it's like a werewolf, but they don't call it that. I forgot. But
The
what is that called? Does anybody
it-
know?
is it the Wadobe? Would
No, I don't.
Wendigo? Is it a Wendigo?
I think so, but I wonder is that like a type of alien also, and are more coming, and then they can't control it? Is that why they're starting to tell us in baby steps? I mean, I don't. Something's up, you know.
Well, I'll tell you that a friend of mine has written a couple of paranormal books, and I have narrated stories in both of them.
Cool.
And the last one I narrated was about a Wendigo, and I was just like, "Oh my goodness, this is really, this is really different." So I did not know how they were created. It was kind of interesting.
There's been a lot more portals too. Even we get it on video.
Right? And I mean, they're not all swirly whirly. Sometimes they're lights and stuff.
Right.
I would love to see more of the swirlies. I've only seen one, but because I don't see them very well.
Mm.
But what do you make of that?
I don't know. I think honestly, I think maybe a veil's been lifted, or maybe CERN tapped into something they shouldn't have, and more visitors are coming through portals. I mean, I've heard all
I
kinds
would
of
agree with that. People don't even talk about that anymore.
right. They don't.
Out of sight, out of mind.
Right. So it's strange. I've seen a light portal, and a shadow person came out of it. I've seen on video we have it was a light swirled around a black hole, and then a light shot out of the black hole, and then it just disappeared. So, and we have that on video. It's crazy.
That's cool.
In the backyard. Yeah. So they're everywhere.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you that I feel energy. I can hear energy.
Mm-hmm.
I can read energy. And people used to think that was crazy. But Kira says that she totally agrees that CERN is opening energy portals. By its very nature, this is publicly funded. CERN is publicly funded. We should be hearing about what's happening there.
Yes.
And we never do.
No.
We never do. Andrea Perrin and her old co-host, whose name is escaping me right now, it'll come to me, wrote a book about CERN, and it was a Jack the Ripper book, and it was really interesting. And that one of the guys who was working on the collider actually went back in time and was Jack the Ripper. So it was like weird, 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 weird.
Well, the government stole Tesla's time machine. I read somewhere. I believe it.
Yeah. I mean, seriously, Elon Musk, if he can't make it, it can't be made. Seriously, I would love to have like a 30-minute or a 2-hour, Elon, if you're listening. We would love to have a conversation with you. But, you know, I really would, because the way that that mind functions is so different from the average mind. For everybody, yeah, Science Bob, Rich, Abby Loeb, Jacques Vallée, all of these people have Flickr. Thank you. Yes, in a Flickr. But that's one of the best books I've ever read, Andrea's book. And I would suggest that book to anybody. I really,
yeah,
in a Flickr. But I think that people who ignore science and just assume that the scientists know what they're doing would be so surprised. Don't you think so?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I just think that it's scary sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, I think, well, you know, just hearing Bob talk, a lot of scientists do a lot of unethical things to push the border on dimensions or making hybrids or things like that. And that's never shared or talked about publicly, but it's real. And I think we should know in some sense. I know it's scary, but it's happening.
Well, you know, you've got to figure if they're making hybrids between bunnies and ducks, right? Then they're probably more than willing to make hybrids of other things.
I think so. Yeah.
And I think it happens a whole lot.
Yep.
So
I think there are a lot of hybrids that aliens have made with us, and a lot of us walk around and don't even know that we are, you know?
Yeah, I think it's interesting when you see somebody and you're just like, oh, look at those unusual features. Look at the color of those eyes. The first time I was ever at my first contact, was it Contact? I was walking with Linda Moulton Howe, and this girl came by, and she was wheelchair bound. She was stunning. I've never seen eyes like hers, and they were not contacts. Wow. And I'm just kind of looking. I mean, the whole package was so striking. And Linda stopped in her tracks and looked at her mom, who was pushing the chair, and said, "Really?" And the mom said, "She is." And I'm like, "Wow, get out of town, right?" And but she was spectacular. And I was taken aback. I did not anticipate that. So that's when I realized that, you know what, maybe.
Yeah.
It blew me away.
And they have a different vibration, I guess I could say, about them.
Totally did.
Yeah. Yep.
How do you feel it? How do you feel that is a different vibration?
So, like if a psychic person comes near me, the room will shift. It'll just feel different. I can't really explain it. Or I'll get a ringing in my ear. It's just, they alter the air almost. It's just totally different, you know?
Oh my God.
And it's,
Kat, can I jump in here?
You can.
Sweetheart, I just heard for the first time. Okay. Margie Kay, the owner of the network, she's full on psychic, monster psychic. Okay. She came up here when we were building this station. She came up here to sit down in my studio so I could train her on Sam. and show her how I did it. We filmed it and everything. And so I had headphones on, and I'm sitting here at the console, and she came in behind me from my left to my right. And I swear on all I love that my left ear started ringing, and it got real faint. Then it got real loud. Then it moved right through my head to my right ear. The left faded out. My right ear was ringing, and then it went down to a dull tone. And when I reached my right hand up to my ear to kind of like, stick my finger in my ear hole and just kind of rattle it,
Right.
I saw something out of the corner of my eye, and Margie had walked behind me. From my
Get
left
out.
to my right, she walked in the studio door behind me, and she had pulled up a chair that was on the back wall. She grabbed that and pulled it up to my right side and sat down right here beside me. And that has never happened to me before, ever.
That's cool.
That's exactly what happened. And when you said that, Lala, I was like, that just validated what I thought. I said, Margie, gosh, you're vibrating. Like, she said, yeah, I get it. But she constantly has problems with computers and her laptops and stuff, her phone. Like, I told her, I said, you need to have some fashion designer design you some copper clothes or something. Faraday cage you in.
Building. Yeah.
But anyway, thank you for letting me come in and say that, Kat. I just
Thank you for doing it.
Yeah, okay. Thank you so much.
I love validation.
Yeah, my dad, he couldn't wear a watch because it would break down and just never work for him. So I used to think that was funny, but he was annoyed at it.
Well, it's not funny because I could not wear like Seikos back when Seikos were a thing. And I had to start wearing just like the $10 Walmart watches.
No.
And I would always get the pretty ones, right? But still, $10 Walmart watches because I go through them. And when I bought my Apple Watch, I was so nervous about it. And
they're expensive.
It's so far hanging in there. But this is my second or third one. But nothing lasts forever. Certainly not any kind of electronic around me.
Right.
But that is true because I could not wear a good watch ever.
It's interesting.
And that's ever. I worked at a jewelry store when I was in high school, and so I could buy them, and I couldn't wear them.
Oh,
they would die. And even with a discount, those were expensive. But I didn't have any other bills at the time, so it's what it is.
That's how strong our energy is. Even if you're not very psychic, we all have such a strong energy that we're not told about, and so we don't know how to hone it in or use it. I do feel that when these I call them energy beings. I don't know what they'd like to be called. I don't want to be rude, but I feel as though if someone does want to speak to them and has never done it before, if you just quiet yourself in your own way, you're kind of adjusting your energy so that they can communicate better with you. It's very much a frequency balance with each other. That's what I've learned.
Is that why meditation works?
Oh yeah, it does. Yeah. I have a hard time meditating, but you could paint, you could whatever makes you quiet your thoughts enough to receive information or anything. It's all on how you are comfortable doing it.
That's a really interesting point, and I thank you for that, because the first time when I first started meditating again, I was just sitting there, and my safe place was my aunt's old, childhood front porch, because I loved her dad. And, it was a porch swing, and I'm sitting on the porch swing, and this guy walks in, a shadow guy walks in and just sits on the other end of the swing.
Wow.
And he's a tall, skinny guy, and he's got like the tiny fedoras, like her dad used to wear. And I'm like, this is my meditation. You know, he didn't acknowledge me. He just walked in and sat on the other end of my swing, my
Huh.
metaphysical swing, right? And I'm just like, what are you doing? This is my yeah, this is my spot.
Right.
And a friend of mine, because I mentioned it later, and a friend of mine said, "Oh no, that's not supposed to happen.
Okay.
That's your time."
Right.
And I didn't really know what to do. I mean, because I know that he had to feel the shift in my focus,
Mm-hmm.
but I didn't come out of the meditation.
Okay.
So is that what I mean? What was that? Do you know?
I I was just talking about shadow people yesterday. There's
Okay.
different types of shadow people. Some have hats, the Hat Man. Some don't have legs, and then some have legs. The Hat Man is feared the most. It kind of sucks energy psychically. I think he was drawn to your energy. I do. Um, a lot of people feel that they are watchers. They monitor, take information, and nobody knows why really they watch. But
Well, it's just odd. I mean, because and the reason that I knew that it wasn't my aunt's dad was because he didn't acknowledge me.
mm-hmm. Yeah.
He walked in to my meditation and he didn't acknowledge me at all. He just went and sat on the other end of the swing.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just like, no, what are you doing? So that was different.
A lot of psychics and healers in their own way. I don't know if you are, but
I am a healer.
experience shadow people in the Hat Man. They really do. So I think it's something to do with your type of energy. I do.
Okay. Well, and I'm pretty sure that I think I was probably more open
Mm-hmm.
during that meditation because
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was just a sit down, let's take a minute kind of thing. There was a big, didn't have the energy ball around me. I just sat down and meditated. So usually, and certainly ever since I do shield, but I never really have to shield
Right.
because people have a very hard time reading me or and other stuff as a rule. And I don't actively shield. I just am difficult sometimes for some people,
Can I
especially my
ask you?
husband. No, kidding.
I want to ask you a question. I like asking everybody if that's okay.
Try. Yeah.
What is the craziest paranormal experience you've ever had?
I've had two. One of them was on a TV show. I told people about it on a TV show. It was crazy. I was in a jail and the whole place started banging and stomping because I had offended the spirits there.
Wow.
And that was a little freaky. But the good thing was that they were messing with my electronics. So I got mad too. So I didn't feel as scared as probably I should have.
Mm.
Okay. But I was looking at cast iron doors that were banging, but they weren't moving,
Oh,
if that makes sense.
yeah.
I mean, they were banging on steel fire doors on every floor that
Hmm.
go out to a caged stairway
Wow.
because it's had the razor wire around the fence out there. So I know it wasn't anybody outside banging.
Mhm.
That was pretty intense. And the first time I saw a shadow, um, it it looked at first like it had like I brought a camera up on it and it just kind of went against a door and then it just kind of melted down the door and went over and went under the door next to it.
Yeah.
And I asked the first time I saw it, it didn't do anything. I asked my friend if she would shine her light back down there again. And that's when I think it knew and it just was like, ah, and it melted down and went under the door.
Hmm.
So I saw it the first time on my night vision camera, and then I asked her if she would shine her light down there. So that was pretty intense too. That was my first time. And that time also, that same investigation, we had gone up. People were supposed to be meeting us to let us into the 6th floor.
Mhm.
And we got there because there's no power. We had to walk that. And we got there and the door was locked. And I saw somebody looking out the door at us. And we were like, open the door. We
Oh,
had walkie talkies. We're like, why are you not letting us in? He said, well, we're on the 10th floor. We're on our way down. I said, well, no, you're looking at us.
oh my God.
And there was nobody on that floor because they came down. We were standing there. And when they opened the door, there was nobody on that floor. It happened to be a psych ward.
Oh God.
Floor.
Oh God.
So that was probably why the face looked funny. I thought it was just that the glass had, wires built into it. But yeah, so those are my 3 weirdest. I've had a lot of different experiences, but those were my 3 weirdest ones.
Thank you. Yeah, I think it's neat. Growing up, I was only child. I had a lot of strange experiences that I didn't get to talk to people about. So I like to ask people now as an adult, what was your experience, So
Well, when I was a kid, I was much more open and aware than I am now. And I was in 6th grade when I had my first UFO experience. So
what happened?
it was a trip. Well, it's weird because my dad was Special Forces Green Beret Airborne,
Wow.
and he and a bunch of his friends were, we were having a cookout. We lived in student housing at the University of Alabama because he was doing his PhD, his master's and PhD stuff. And there was a craft in the sky that was not making any noise at all. And bear in mind that I'd been going to watch my dad and his friends jump out of perfectly good aircraft for years. So I'm like, what is that? And they all turned around and they all looked at each other and they said, that's a helicopter. And I was like, no, it's not. There's no noise. And they were just like, it's a helicopter. And I'm like, that is not a helicopter. So they just poo-pooed me and distracted me, and how grown-ups do with kids, and went on. And I think I got sent for marshmallows or something.
No.
But that night when we went to bed, my sister and I shared a room, and my bed faced the window, and there were lights outside. And I was just like, that's weird. But they were like green and white and blue, and I mean different colored of lights, but I remember the green mainly. And I was just like, I don't know what that is. That's and on top of seeing something that I knew wasn't a helicopter, I was just like with the covers. And I don't remember anything else until the next morning. So to this day, I still have not. I don't have a memory of that until the next morning. My sister never moved at all. And my sister was a light sleeper. So I just kind of like, yeah, no.
Right.
But that was my first time to have an encounter. And that was an encounter. So
I think
not sure what happened between the covers going up and waking up the next morning.
Covers save everything. It's, the ultimate shield,
Oh, sure. That sheet is like steel.
Cover your feet. Dear God.
Yeah. Well, I'm one of those weirdos that has a foot out. Right.
I can't do it. I'm terrified. There's something going on my toe.
I can't not do it. But even when it's cold, I still have a foot out. It's crazy. I don't know what's up with that.
Bob does it all the
time.
I'll cover his foot. And he's like, it's fine. Nobody's going to eat it. It's terrible.
Well, now, see, I was at a hotel on Cedar Key, the hotel on Cedar Key. And I'd gone up to bed. When I got there, I said, I just asked because I was traveling. And I said, "Well, are y'all haunted?" Because I'd heard they were.
Mm.
And she was like, "Well, we do have a soldier upstairs, and there is somebody that will, visit you. They won't be weird, but they will visit you in
Hmm.
the night." And I was in bed and I got pinched on my toe.
Ew.
And I
No.
was just like, so I'm thinking scorpion, right? So,
Okay.
I mean, Florida, so,
Yeah.
Central Florida, right around the bend. So, yeah, I I did. I got pinched on my toe. There was a pinch mark and there was nothing in my bed.
Oh, that's not
So,
good. That's
well,
not
I was
good.
surprised. I was just like, well, they said it was haunted. And
They
I,
do it. When I was little, I was in my dad's bed. He was in Texas and for work, and the house was very haunted that I grew up in.
right?
And I swear I felt almost like a nail, somebody's fingernail sharp go up the bottom of my foot. And that's
Oh
when
my
it
gosh.
started. I was like, we're not playing this. I'm keeping my feet. Okay.
What's the weirdest thing that you've had paranormally?
Well,
And where?
one, where? What'd you say?
And where?
Okay. One I'll share is a spirit actually saved my life one time, and my
Cool.
mom witnessed it, and she was not a believer, but she would talk about it. It scared her. I had really, really bad asthma growing up. And so when I would have asthma attacks, I would lay in her bed and she
Mhm.
would watch over me. And I was sleeping, she was sleeping. She woke up to hearing like wooden shoes on the wooden hallway, which was unusual. And she was a light sleeper. And when she woke up, she saw a woman in a dress put her hands over my body, and I started to breathe again. I was asleep, but I started to breathe again because I had stopped because of the
Oh my
asthma.
word.
And when I started to breathe again, the lady just vanished. And my mom remembered the detail of the dress. There was no face. It was like a very old type of dress with a bonnet.
That would have shocked me with no face.
It scared her. It really, but she was
Mhm.
grateful. But and my experience, I've had a lot. I know my grandma, my neighbor that I called Grandma Cheyenne, that I love very much. She passed away when I was around 6, and we couldn't go to the funeral. But later on, we went to go find her grave, and my parents walked a little bit away from me. And the grave in Baltimore has like thousands of graves. It's very large. Um, and I heard her in my ear say, "I'm over here." And I walked, I was like guided, and I put my hand and I was like, "She's over here." And that's when my dad knew that he had to start telling me about how we were and what we were, because he was a psychic and a Reiki healer.
Right.
Um, I've heard voices. A man said, do not fear me." And then I ran and jumped and ran
You
away.
feared him.
I failed that one. Um, I've had boxes. What scared me a lot was after my dad passed. Um, I went to my parents' house to help my mom, and boxes. There was something that wasn't my dad was there, but there was something that wasn't my dad,
Oh
and it was
wow.
very scary. Their neighbor, a few months before my dad passed from a weird accident, the neighbor had shot himself to death. So maybe it was his energy, but boxes would pile up on each other so I couldn't go through the doorway. Water boiled up from the tiles and then all of a sudden was dry. The cat started to attack me, and when she would have never done that, it
Whoa.
scared me. It really, really scared me. So, and the shadow person flew up over me and behind me. And it glided. I was in the garage and it glided from outside up to the ceiling and dropped behind me. And I'm a big girl and I dropped to the ground. So my body reacted. So,
Right.
you know what I mean? Lots of stuff has happened, really.
Yeah. Those shadows. I was I was so excited when I saw that shadow. This was the
Mhm.
first time. And it never dawned on me until after the fact that I should have been maybe a little less enthusiastic. because I made it uncomfortable. But I mean, because it really did. It was escaping. But it was it's so cool. I love paranormal experiences. I love ufology.
Mhm.
But when I am and I do more work now with UFO research and things of that nature, but I love paranormal.
Mhm.
I do love it. It's so rewarding because I feel like I can help people,
Right. Yeah.
and that's what I like. But it's just one of those things that we're getting so much information now.
Mhm.
And to me, that's just so cool. I
Mhm.
love going and learning about different types of science that are finding application within the field.
Right.
And I have had, I really feel like I have had paranormal um, alien encounters.
Mhm.
And I do think they're correlated.
Yes,
So do you think that too?
I do now. I just by feeling them, I think is much more connected than we realize. I really
Yeah.
do. I thought it was very separate for most of my life, you know. But
I used to think that too, but I don't anymore.
right.
Is it because of the way the energy feels to you?
Yes, although aliens have more of a business, less emotional feel, and spirits they have a very high emotion feeling, especially if they used to be humans.
Yeah.
If it's a different entity, it's slightly different, but aliens are always very, yeah, we have something to do when we're here, you know?
We're here for the job, ma'am.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I get that. But, it's so much fun to have you here. I have loved every minute of it. Will you come and play again?
Absolutely. I love it.
Cool beans.
Thank you.
Well, we are just about out of time. I just want to let everyone know that this is Lala Bright. She has been fantastic. We have just talked about everything. If you missed any of it, you can go back and look at the archives. And I just appreciate you so much, listeners and people chatting. And Lala, your time has just been such a gift.
Thank
Do
you
you have
very
anything you want to share before we go? We still got a minute or two.
Um, if anybody wants to reach out to me, I'm on Facebook or my website is lalabrightllc.com. Um, I have all the videos and photos on Facebook. You don't have to be a friend to see them. If you need to talk, I'm a great listener. So yeah, you're never alone. You're never alone. Literally, you're never alone. So,
Do you think that I know that we have to go, but do you think that everyone has a guardian?
I do. I really do. A couple, not just one.
Are they usually family?
I think I think you have family, but I think you have something else that was never human helping. I think you're assigned somebody. And I think mine are exhausted, honestly.
I know that there have been times that mine needed a drink, but and out of curiosity, does the word Algonquin mean anything to you?
No, what is that?
It's my guardian's name. And because I asked and I did it several different, I went to bed and said, "Can you just let me know your name so that
Okay.
I'll know, you know, who to thank?" And it happened if you'll just talk to me as I'm waking up before I get wide awake. And 3 different times I got that same name and I didn't understand what it was. It's actually the name of a park in Belgium too. So yeah,
What?
and my dad's best friend was from Belgium. So it was kind of cool. I
Interesting.
just didn't know if that name had any meaning to
No,
you.
you're lucky. They won't. I guess I can't hear well enough. My ADD probably goes off or
Well,
something.
I
But
have it too, but ask before you go to sleep if they could just say their name as you're
okay,
starting to rouse before you get wide awake. That's what I had to do.
I do want to. I know my parents are with me, protecting me a lot. But I do feel we have. I think we have alien protectors and other types of beings, and I do.
I need all the protection I can get. More so when I was younger than now, but I'm
Right.
always appreciative of it. Well, thank you so much.
Thank
so
you.
much. I appreciate you. And for everyone listening, yeah, we got Clyde Lewis coming up behind me, and that is one great guy and one great show. So hang in there and enjoy it. And thank you all for being here, joining me for our paranormal experience. Good night.